Okay, I can start Facebook Live pretty soon here, and it's 6 o'clock.
Okay.
It's going.
And I will log on. We'll try to keep up with the questions.
Okay.
We live?
It's going there, yeah.
I'm so impatient.
All right, we should be good.
All right, let me see if I can click on it, see if it opens up for me. Oh yeah. That's what I look like, maybe, huh? Okay. Well, thank you all for joining, whoever is on at this point. And tonight, unfortunately, at the last kind of earlier today, my host was unable to do this tonight, some unforeseen events. So I'm going to go ahead and wing it myself. And so I'm going to try to keep up with some questions. Please send your questions in. And I'm going to send it over to Lupe real quick so she can do her intro and we can bring our Spanish speakers on. So Lupe, take it away.
Thanks, Chief. Bienvenidos a todos al chateo con el jefe de policía. Si tiene alguna pregunta, por favor use la función de chat. Y ahora les presento el jefe de policía, Tim Mattos. I'll turn it over to you, Chief.
Oh, you were supposed to take like 59 minutes on this.
Sorry, that's all I got.
All right. Well, so the first thing I want to say real quick is we did get, there's one question that came into our Chiefs chat mailbox. And just so people know, that's chiefschat@rpcity.org. You can send those in anytime and if it's something that I can answer at that point, I will, or we can wait and I can get them on the chat. But we did get a question regarding some speeding and just bad driving over in the area of Magnolia Avenue. And so I just want to let that person know that I've already sent that information to the sergeant who's working and to the sergeants who will be coming in and requested some traffic enforcement over there. So I do want to say that a lot of times when we do that, sometimes the person who wrote in just happens to be the day they roll a stop sign or something. And so they end up getting caught. So I just want you to know that there will be some extra patrolling over there. So be very careful, drive safe, and you'll be fine. One of the other things I thought we could talk about for just a little bit tonight was yesterday at noon, we officially launched our SAFE team, which is our specialized assistance for everyone team. And that's our van. You might have seen it rolling around our cities tonight. We did it in conjunction with Catalytic. So we have a SAFE van in our city. It's based on the Cahoots program. That van is staffed with an EMT and a mental health crisis worker. And right now we're staffing that van 7 days a week from 12 noon to 12 midnight. And they will respond to calls that involve mental health crisis, some of our homeless issues, calls for service that don't really require a police officer. So we're really excited. They were really busy yesterday. They have been busy today. This is not only new for the city, but it's also new for public safety. It's something for public safety to kind of get used to and wrap their minds around having this new resource out there. So it was really good to see the SAFE staff working with the public safety staff over the last couple of days. And we're really early in on this, but already kind of getting an idea of how we can work together and how we can help each other. We had a call to school today, which really didn't require a law enforcement officer, but SAFE team was able to go over there and provide some assistance. So I'm just really happy and excited about this team, and really excited to see where it's going to take the city. So if you have any questions on that, please send those in, and I'll try to answer them. Another event that I just wanted to quickly talk about was the the Halloween carnival that was put on by Community Services. We had a lot of our equipment out there. We had our big fire truck, some police vehicles, and a safe van. Had public safety personnel out there just to be part of what Community Services put on. They put on a great event. My understanding was there were hundreds of people who came. I'm probably underselling that, but it was a very good event. And the officers that were out there and the personnel that were out there came back, and they were very, very excited about the support from the community and some of the conversations they had. And so, I want to thank those of you who came out and took the time to go up and introduce yourself and talk to our public safety officers, to just get to know them a little better. I've said since the beginning, we recruit from the human race. They are, as I say, they're moms and dads, they're brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, aunts and uncles. They're no different than anybody else. They just put on a different uniform every day when they go to work. And so I appreciate when we're able to open ourselves up to the community, so that you can see that, there actually could be your next door neighbor, helping you build a fence on the weekend, type of stuff. So I think that's really, really neat that we had that opportunity. Definitely wanted to talk a little bit about the fact that, we're coming into the winter season. I think we got a huge taste of that about 8 days ago, on a particular Sunday, that I think there were people in our community, including me, that thought we were just going to float away. We got a lot of water in a very short period of time. We can see how dangerous water is, how quickly it rises, and what it can do. And then, we just had a little short spurt yesterday. And so anytime we get dry periods, few days of dry periods, that is followed by even a light precipitation, even light rain, understand that oil and dirt and just vehicle liquids have gotten on the roads, and they become extremely slick. We have responded to numerous vehicle collisions, and not all pertain to injury, but they cause damage, which causes expense, which causes you to be without your car for a while. So, coming into the winter season, I hope you always drive slow and safe, but just take a few extra minutes to get to where you're going. Leave a few minutes earlier so you're not having to push it, just so you're safe. Let's see if we can make our community even safer with the driving. And those of you who are out there and do believe that our streets are your personal racetrack, we don't. We will address your speeding issues. You live in a neighborhood with other people who expect you to behave in a certain manner, and help keep their neighborhood safe, not to go in and be something that disrupts the neighborhood. So, when you think about lighting those tires up, or, using it as a racetrack, think about your obligation to that neighborhood and this community, in keeping us safe. That's not just my responsibility, it's your responsibility too. So I would ask that, those of you who are out there tearing it up, that you start acting a little bit more responsibly for us, so that we can keep this community thriving. We have the holiday season coming up, and the holiday season can sometimes bring with it, no chat, okay. It's a time where people start taking advantages of others. We've talked before that in order for a crime to be committed, there has to be basically a desire, intent on someone's part to commit the crime. Then there also has to be the opportunity, right? We can't always control the intent, but we can control the opportunity. So, this time of year, we see thefts rising. People are more proactive in like vehicle theft and thefts from vehicle, because they know people are starting to do their holiday shopping. They're leaving stuff in the car, they're traveling more. So, make sure you're putting stuff in the trunk. Look around when you're getting stuff out of your car, you're going to put it in the trunk. Be aware of your surroundings. Is there someone watching? Is there someone standing around? You know, so, and then just don't leave valuables in sight in your vehicle. You know, I always talk about parking your car inside at night, but I know not everybody can do that. Try to have it in a lit area and don't leave valuables inside it. So that's my advice as we move into this. We had a program a couple years back. I think it was right when I got here. The program had just ended because I got here at the end of the year. And it was
If
what
I
was the name
were
of that? If I Were a Thief, yes. And you know, we would go around. The officers had these little cards or these little tags, and if they saw something in your car, as we were walking through, if we saw a purse or a present or something, we would put this little tag on under your windshield wiper just to say, hey, if I were a thief, that was a potential opportunity. So, and it was just a quick reminder for people like, oh yeah, I forgot, I should have put that in the trunk, or I should have taken it in the house. So, you know, that was a good program. I thought it worked really well. We had some feedback that people didn't like us putting stuff on their cars. So, you know, we learned that you can't satisfy everybody, but we also thought, you know, maybe you got to find another way. So what I'm telling everybody out there now is, when you get out of your car, you know, kind of think about, well, if I was a thief, would this be an opportunity? And if you're like, yes, then probably take it out of your car. Don't leave it in there.
And the same with like packages on your porches, and just really try to have a plan in place as far as where you're going to have your packages delivered. And a lot, you know, with package tracking, that really helps. But with packages being delivered coming up here in the holiday season, so we're going to see more of that as well.
Oh, that's a great point, Jill. There, I tried to not make you speak tonight, but
I know I'm trying.
You fill in all the gaps for me. But I don't know that I've come to work over the last year that I haven't either heard of or seen myself a video of someone sending in regarding one of the, you know, they call porch pirates, right? That someone's stealing a package. And I know everyone's got cameras, but some of these people don't care because they know that, yes, they're going to be caught on camera, but someone has to identify them. Someone has to say, I know who that person is. And, you know, we don't know everybody. So we can get a video, but we won't always know that person. We might sometimes, but we won't always. So there's still an opportunity for people to get away with this, right? And we had a case I believe it was last week, where we actually got a call from a UPS driver who said that there was a vehicle following them on their route. And they believed that they had stopped and taken some packages that they had just delivered. So this is the time. It really gets bad this time of year. I know at one of the locations that I lived at in the past, there was an Amazon locker there. I know there's lockers, I think, up at Safeway. There's different lockers around the city. So, you know, if you're not going to be home when something's delivered, that's always a great option. Have it delivered to the locker. I guess you get a code later, you can go get it, it's secure. Talk to a neighbor, see if you could have something delivered there. See if you can have it delivered at work, if that's an opportunity. That doesn't always work, but I think most people are aware of the problem now and would understand, you know, as long as you're not having something delivered that takes 2 vehicles to haul it, you know, just put it in little boxes. And then, you know, for those of you who do have cameras, you know, have a neighbor's phone number or someone close that when you get the alert that the package was dropped off, you can call somebody, maybe they can go get it for you. So just anything. I know when I put my garage door and I got it connected to my phone, it gave me the opportunity to actually give the delivery person the code to my garage so they could actually open the garage and put it in there. I have not gone that far yet, but there have been a couple times where I can actually open and close my garage even remotely when I'm in work. And when I see them there, they've been instructed to call. I open the garage door they go in, they come out, I shut the garage door. So there's a lot more available to us now than there was even last year or 2 years ago. So the last thing I want to hear about is someone not getting their gift for Christmas because someone else stole it. So that angers me. I don't like that. So let's see. I don't have any questions yet on Facebook. I wonder if anyone's actually watching this tonight, Bill.
We have some folks watching, and the one thing that I'm going to kind of jump in on that I want to talk about again is like catalytic converter theft. And one thing that we've talked about it a lot, but it continues to be an ongoing issue. And it's still predominantly the Toyota Prius, but also like the Honda Accord and the Honda Element. The one thing that we are seeing are folks that are second time and I think even verging on third time victims. And so if you are a victim of a catalytic converter theft, we're really asking that you try to look at those aftermarket shields or those prevention devices that can be put on. Like a lot of folks are talking about putting on the car alarms again, because sometimes they have to put a jack underneath the car and actually move the car, so those alarms will alert. And then camera placement. And we had a case last week where it was someone who had been a victim earlier in the month. And then they came back to take the new catalytic converter, but the individual had actually put on an aftermarket deterrence and had put cameras, and the catalytic converter was not stolen. So, it's just one of those things where if you do have a Prius in particular, we just really ask that you kind of maybe reach out to your dealership or muffler, business and see if there's something that you can do to kind of just protect the catalytic converter, so that way you don't become a victim or you don't become a victim again. So we did see some success with an aftermarket. I just wanted to put that out there and ask folks to kind of rethink that and try to, because we don't want to see you become victims. And from what I've seen, the aftermarket is about 150 to 250 for the actual item. I'm not sure how much it costs to put on the vehicle, but if you look at the several $1,000s that a converter runs, you're ahead, especially if it stops it on multiple times. So again, we hate seeing people become victims of catalytic converter theft. And it's not just here, it's wherever you drive your vehicle, you're a potential victim. So.
Right. And one of the things we're finding also is camera placement is really important, because there are a lot of cameras out there now, and we have a lot of these catalytic converter thefts where they're catching an image of the vehicle, but because of the camera placement, it's not catching any of the plate. And so you just might want to kind of look at how you've got the camera aimed or set, or do I need another one at the far corner of my house to catch the front of a vehicle as it's driving? Because when they're here, especially if you're close to a corner, if they're just over your garage maybe or center house, it might not be catching the front. So just camera placement's really big too, and clarity. They've got so many nice cameras now, and prices of cameras have come down, and the night vision on these cameras are so much better now. I have the one that actually is just a motion light. So if you come up, it lights up the area anyway. So the night vision's not quite as critical. But I actually noticed that I wasn't catching any plates on any vehicles that were going by my house. I was just catching the vehicles. So I know that I need to look at camera placement also, so that if I'm the victim, I have that too. If I'm the victim, I should have known better, I think. So, but yeah, the catalytic converters they're going through the roof, and we're searching people. We're pulling over a lot of cars. We're finding what we will believe are probably tools used, but unless we have something to go with the tools, we really, our hands are kind of tied. But you stop a car that has a jack in the back and some quick tools, but no catalytic converter, no signs of theft. And sometimes we just have to let them drive away, but they're on our radar. We have made some arrests, but not enough to make a dent, because it's so lucrative right now to take these catalytic converters and sell them for the material inside.
And some people, they're not even using the saw. I mean, a lot of times people will hear that noise, and we've seen a few where people are unbolting them now. And so again, kind of the best thing to do is try to protect the converter itself, so that way you just don't have to. And then, like I said, they know, if they're successful at one point, they know where the car is, they know where you're living. So if it's in a driveway, on a street, in a parking stall, if they're successful once, and they know in about 30 days, you've filed your claim with your carrier and you've been replaced. And so we kind of are seeing these different intervals where they can kind of anticipate where converter was and has been replaced. And so we're just asking that, one, if you haven't been a victim yet, just try to do something ahead of time. If you have been, do something about it to hopefully stop. And we do have officers who are looking, but just like what you said, Chief, that doesn't always stop all who are participating in this right now, which is a lot of folks.
Yes. So no questions on the chat right now. We did have one earlier, but we answered it. It was who is hosting tonight. And so I do have a question, but we kind of answered that one already. I actually reached out to the gentleman earlier, and I see that you did too, I think, through Facebook, to let him know that it was just going to be me tonight.
Yeah, no, yeah, I responded to him.
Yeah, I think word got out. It's just the chief tonight. There's no like exciting host. So, but I think we just come off a couple really big weeks. We had the weekend with the rain. I know people were really prepping on Saturday, and then dealing with it on Sunday, and then kind of a week of cleanup right into a Halloween weekend, which I'm sure that people, because it was on Sunday, had the opportunity to get out and have a little fun on Saturday. I did see numerous Halloween parties, and I was pleasantly surprised. Halloween is because of the ability to dress up and the costumes and the opportunity for people to have Halloween parties. I'm sure there was a lot of alcohol that was flowing on Saturday night at these parties, but we had a real limited amount of alcohol related incidents in the city, which I appreciate. That that tells me either people used alternative transportation with Uber and Lyft, and had other sober drivers driving, or they stayed at locations or something. But Halloween and New Year's Eve are probably the two biggest, probably for me, the scariest holidays of the year, because of the ability to have a really great get together and party. And so I'm always worried that we're going to lose lives on that night just because of that. And I'm very pleased. So I'm very proud of our town and our city and our community members for being responsible, having fun, but being responsible. So I would say thank you for that, because that's a tough night for us to work, Halloween and New Year's Eve. So you know what it is too, Jill. I think tonight is Game 6 of the World Series. So
It is. I was going to go some of it. I don't want to offend anybody on who I want to win, so it's okay.
Well, I'm sure people are watching that, and the other thing that I will say is I've gotten some emails over the past couple weeks on bicycle helmets on kids. And so I've got a couple questions that came in also. We seem to see an increase in these motorized scooters. I think they used to be called razors, but now they've grown a little bit and they've got motors on them, and so people ride them around. It's like a skateboard with a steering wheel on it. People ride them around, and some kids are now using them to get back and forth to school. I just want to say that if you are under the age of 18, you are required to have a helmet when you're riding that. I stopped the young lady the other day on the way to school, and she wasn't aware of it. She thought it was like a skateboard, but because it's motorized, you are required to wear a helmet on that. So please ensure that you're doing that. And then bike helmets. This is a tough one. We talked about this one a couple of times on the chat. And I've actually talked to the staff a little bit about just saying we're probably going to have to do an event where we go out like we do the pedestrian crossings and just be in a location and just start handing out these citations, right? I personally would love to see more parents requiring their kids to put a helmet on when they leave the house. But I'm not. And one of the reasons that I say this is because when I stop somebody and they've got the helmet hanging around the handlebars, more than likely their parents told them you need to wear a helmet. When they got around the block, because it doesn't look cool, they took it off and hung it around the steering wheel. That's on the juvenile. That's on that person. But there's also a bigger percentage of kids who are riding around with not a helmet on the steering wheel or hanging on their bike, which tells me they weren't asked to wear it when they left. And that's where we need your help. We need you, as the parent, to say part of riding your bike is wearing your helmet. But I'm just giving fair warning that we are putting together a enforcement program to address these bike helmets. I don't think the kids understand it. Even a very low speed crash where the head impacts the ground, the damage it can do. And we're talking about lifelong lasting damage. And I don't want to see that. So if your child comes home with a ticket, it's because they weren't wearing a helmet. Loopy, the lights went out on you. So, all right.
So I think we have a question. What's the status of the homeless camp west of Bear Republic on Roberts Lake Road?
Oh, I thought we were going to get through one night. Yes. Wow. That question of the day right there, question of the week. The city manager and I actually sat at a meeting last night with the PTO, the parent teacher organization presidents for the district. And we delivered the recommendations that we made to council on the police accountability and police community relations. And when we're done, we said, are there any questions? And everyone wanted to ask about the homeless on Roberts Lake Road. So I know it's a topic. I know people are seeing it. I'm out there usually daily just to see where it's going. So for those of you who don't know, that encampment was originally under on the underpass, just outside, just right down from where they are now. It was a large encampment under there, tons of trash, tons of debris, and tons of people. It was out of sight. People didn't really see it down there, but we were aware of it, and Caltrans was aware of it. It's state property right there. And so there was a big clean out by CHP and Caltrans of that particular encampment. And that entire encampment within an hour moved on to the Roberts Lake Park and Ride and started setting up camps. And that's where you saw that encampment starting to grow. And it grew from about 15 to about 40 over that period of time. And so we went to work on trying to address the issues with that encampment and trying to get people housed out of that encampment. And so it took a lot of work. There were some people over in City Hall, Jenna and Emily and Lou Kirk over at Code Enforcement, who worked a lot, but it was a citywide effort. And what we were able to do is we were able to find housing for all of those individuals. And once we did that, we were able to go in there and offer them that housing with the understanding if they did not take the housing they were being offered, they had to move along. Because the Martin versus Boise decision said that you cannot criminalize camping on homeless unless you have a bed for them. You have to have lodging for them in order to force them to move from public property. So we did. We spent weeks putting together enough beds and shelters and congregate living facilities to be able to go in there and offer everyone a bed. And I think that day housed about 25 of the 40 individuals that were there. The other individuals declined housing and therefore had to move from that property. A lot of them moved right across the street. A lot of them dispersed back in the city, only to come back to what is now the new Roberts Lake encampment, which is outside the fenced area and stretches all the way down Roberts Lake Road. We housed a couple additional people after that, but now that encampment is growing again. The problem is the housing that we had set aside, the beds, they don't last, right? We had those beds, but once someone turned them down, then there are other cities and organizations who need beds too. So those beds filled up. Because there's just not enough shelter beds in Sonoma County to house all the unsheltered people. So right now we are looking for solutions. We're looking for beds because we have to start that whole process over. We now again have to be able to provide shelter or beds for each individual out there before we can make them vacate that area. And so we've got our host team out there working every day. Well, the safe team has been out there a couple times already over the last couple of days, working with a couple of the individuals to try to get them tied to hosts, tied to beds. We have one individual that wants to go back home, which is out of state. So we're working with that person to try to get them back to their actual home. But we can't just put them on a plane or a train. We have to make sure that there is someone there who is going to be there to accept them and to meet them and to get them in a better place, right? So, yeah, the Roberts Lake encampment is very high on our list of priorities, probably number one. There's a lot of people working on it right now. We have a homeless task force, which includes public safety, public works, housing, code enforcement, development services. It's a whole group of us that would meet weekly and go over every camp and what we're doing and where we are. Then we have the homeless roundtable who's meeting, coming up with ways to try to address some of these problems. But I would say that right now that one, homelessness is probably one of the top priorities the city is working on as a city, and that encampment is getting addressed every single day, every day. I cannot go through a day without having at least one phone call, either with city staff or community regarding Roberts Lake. So just understand that we are working within the confines of the law and the confines of the case law that's come out, because we want to make sure that we are treating and providing dignity to our unhoused, and we want to try to help them get to where they want to go. We have to do it within the confines of the law. And recently Novato just got an injunction against them, as they cannot move one of the encampments that they're having. They cannot touch that encampment until after COVID. And then we don't know what'll happen after that, but they're not allowed to move anybody after COVID. Petaluma is, I think there's a temporary restraining order. They'll be going to court on one of their encampments because they filed a lawsuit against the city. And believe me, every one of those people out there who are in that area of Roberts Lake is working with an attorney so that they are aware of all their rights, and they are making sure that the city is acting in a lawful and professional manner when we're trying to address the issue of our unhoused. I know that was a long answer, but it's a big problem, and it's not going away overnight, but it is something that we're dealing with daily, and we're aware of it.
So there's a fair amount of additional comments that and questions that were coming on the homeless as you were talking. So one is, you offer a bed and they refuse. Why can't you tell them to move on? The camp is full of trash. How is this not a public health hazard? And kind of along with that, another question about, is the city responsible to remove all the garbage on Roberts Lake Road now? And then it talks about kind of the people kind of dumping waste over in the dog park, but being aggressive and argumentative. What can the public do about that? And then how is the state and CHP able to move, but we can't move these, folks along, but we cannot. And then someone else was asking about the current status on the housing facility that we're proposing in Roanoke Park. So there's kind of the trash, waste, and then the future.
Okay. Okay, so to answer the shelter, the bed question. So yes, if we offer somebody a bed and they refuse, then we can say that then you can't camp here. You have to move on. But we have to have that bed there. And one of the things we kind of came across when we were initially doing the Roberts Lake park and ride was, there are people, just kind of threw in another thing to take into consideration. There are people who, because of post-traumatic stress, issues that they've had, they can't be in a congregate setting, right? They can't be in a place where there are just cots lined up and you live in this little cot. They need a place, their own room, right? And so we were dealing with that. So, but we worked through it, and we had enough beds to give everybody. Those beds have since filled up. And so if I had one bed right now, if I called, let's say I called Sam Jones and I said, do you have any beds? And they said, we have one bed. It's a congregate shelter bed. I could go out there and I could address one person, right? I could say, we have a bed for you. And I might get one person out of the camp. Is not addressing the bigger problem. And we are doing that. We're working with individuals to see if we can get them in places. But in order to have that many beds to go out there and address that entire stretch of roadway, they just don't exist right now in the county. So CHP didn't go in there and kick them out, didn't go in there and remove them. At one point, what we would do is we would come in and we would post at 72 hours. And we would say, we are coming back in 72 hours and we are going to remove all the trash and debris. We're going to clean up this campsite. Well, what that would generally cause is it would, people don't want to have to worry about their stuff. So they would pack it up and they would move on. And then whatever was left behind, we would go and clean up. That's pretty much what CHP did. They then did a cleanup, which caused the people to just pack up and move on and move over to Roberts Lake Road, right? But they know that when we come and do a cleanup, that doesn't mean that they have to leave anymore. And so if you remember the Roberts Lake Road, the park and ride, we actually went in there about midway and did a huge cleanup. We couldn't move anybody along. We couldn't have anybody leave. What we did was we went up and we cleaned the trash and debris that had accumulated, right? And so the courts have said that you can clean it when it becomes a hazard. I think we've got a cleanup coming up over the next few days. If you go by there, you'll see that there's a huge stack. We've at least been working on them, providing with garbage bags, asking them to at least take your trash and put it in one place so we can come in and clean it up. So we are very aware of that. But we have to be very careful about when we go in there that we're not taking anything that's a possession of theirs, that's valuable to them. And sometimes deciphering between what's valuable to someone and what's trash is a difficult thing. So we are working with them. We do not want the trash there. We do not want to buy that waterway. So I think that answers the other question. And then if you have somebody that's over there, they still have to abide by societal rules and laws. If you see them dumping stuff or they're being aggressive, call us. We're out there all the time. We're out that encampment. It's almost a beat of its own right now. We spend so much time out there, and we've taken people away and arrested them for warrants. We've issued citations. So we'll go out there and do that job. Don't not call us because there's nothing we can do. We'll address those issues. But we are not able to go out there and tell someone they have to leave. We cannot do that, and we won't do that. So, but if they're being aggressive or threatening, absolutely call us. We will go out and address those immediately. Where are you seeing the questions coming in, Joe? Because I go to the chat, I have nothing. I have no questions.
They're on Facebook.
I'm not seeing any there either. I still have 3 comments. Am I in the wrong place? I must be in the wrong. Oh, I was in the wrong place. Yeah. I was in the wrong place.
And
Just keep me away from technology.
yeah, we had another one. Is the city responsible to provide portable bathrooms?
No.
How do you balance then, like the public health, with this? When the Boise decision came down, kind of what was the balance between, or was there, how do we have public health and kind of balance homelessness with public health? It seems like that's kind of a big concern for a lot of folks.
Yeah, so the Boise decision, a lot of times when a case goes to the appellate court or the California Supreme Court or the United States Supreme Court, they're dealing with, they are trying to answer an issue. So they generally don't look at the entire case. They look at the issue that's brought up by the court. And in the Martin versus Boise case, the issue that they were dealing with was illegal, the camping, the actual camping on public property. And so the courts, in that very narrow view of the entire case, looked at that and said, you cannot move somebody from a public space, and you cannot cite them or criminalize camping if you do not have an option, a bed or a shelter or a house to offer them. And that was what they looked at there. Because the question about bathrooms and trash cans wasn't raised in the case. So we didn't get an answer to that, right? We just got that very narrow look at what they're looking at. The city there's been a lot of discussions, right? The community's discussed it, is whether you should, in these encampments, put trash cans and put bathrooms and, one of the things that you have to be real careful is the Roberts Lake Road is an unsanctioned encampment, right? It's one that popped up. It's one that the people are there, it's growing, but it's an unsanctioned one, right? When you start adding bathrooms, trash, security fencing, you are creating a sanctioned encampment. And then that brings in a lot of other requirements, right? And so we've got the shower facility that is at over on Boris Court, the church on Boris Court, every Wednesday. We are providing the trash cans or the trash bags for them to put their trash in, and asking them to stack it in a location so that we can get in there and we can clean it when it gets to a certain point. But the courts there is some definitions out there on what is trash, how big of an area has to be trash. So and it goes by cubic yards. That Lou over there he has a good understanding of how that works. So we go out there, we look at it, we try to measure, make sure that it's meeting that criteria to get out there and clean that, and so, yeah, I wish there was a better answer, but that is the answer. And then what I can tell you that I believe they're talking about the home key funding from the, I think it's the state fund. So I do know that the city did submit for the grant for the funding. And they didn't meet the deadline and got it in. And so we just have to, it's now a wait and see. I think it's 30 to 45 days before we'll hear whether that funding has been approved, whether we're getting it. A lot of other cities are putting in for the same funding, the pot of money is this big, and the want is this big. So we'll see how we do on that. I think we have a really good plan in place to start addressing that. And that's what it's going to take to get to solve to start addressing this problem. Because I could go out there. I mean, if I went out there and I just said, everybody, you need to leave. You need to get out of here. You can't be here. Right? We still have places for them to go. So you're just going to see the locations change is all we're going to do. But this is a good start, this home key funding. If we can get it and we get this place built and we can have an actual place to house people, we might start seeing a little dent in this homeless issue. Mm-hmm. So I would encourage people who are who want to help and who have ideas. We have been working on this for years. I'm not gonna say we're out of idea, but we're we have been working on it. If someone out there has an idea, has a fresh perspective, just wants to get involved and be part of the solution, right? Help us find a way to navigate this. The group that came out of the homeless roundtable, the ladies who they deliver food, they deliver blankets, they deliver socks. And what they become navigators, right? They've started to build trust with these individuals, which is something you have to do before you can get them to trust and want to look for a better, a new way. So, anybody who wants to come in and start at that level and start working with the city to help us, we'll take the help. We don't have all the answers. And we would love to hear, you can't just throw them at us. We want you to be part of it. We want you to get involved. This is your community. And so, the homeless roundtable, I think I saw today, the next meeting is December 6th at 4 p.m. It meets once a month on the first Monday of the month. They're doing it by Zoom right now. So, you can sit in your pajamas if you want. You don't even have to drive anywhere. And just, if you're not sure, just get on it and listen to what's being said and see if it's something you'd be interested in. Yeah. I mean, I'm reading it. I'm reading these, and it's just a lot of frustration with it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of frustration on our end too, because we would love to have the solution. We would love to be able to just address this in a more proactive way. But we're also trying to make sure that we're protecting our community and not doing things in a hasty manner or in an inappropriate manner. That's going to cause us to get an injunction against us, where a court says you can't even move them now. Mm-hmm. You can't do anything to them. So we're, and I will tell you that we are moving people. We're getting them in beds, maybe one at a time. But that what they say, what's the best way to eat an elephant? One spoonful at a time. We can't take on that entire encampment right now because we don't have it. So if we just peck away at it one person at a time, get them in housing, get them in some kind of housing. But, you know, I will say that for everyone, you know, we get into a housing, someone is losing a home, someone is losing a roof over their head, you know. And my city manager said it yesterday, you know, we were talking to that group, you know, he said, you know, people are just, you know, they're a paycheck away from being out. Just one bad thing, a huge medical bill, you know, missing a few days of work and not being able to make rent. And, you know, you're just, it's so close that, you know, we see more and more people in this situation and being homeless. And, you know, we want to help them. And, you know, we're hoping this new housing thing, if it goes through, will help the home key. But we do have to remember that every one of those people out there have a story. And, you know, they didn't, I know people say, well, they choose it, right? They choose to live this way. But I don't think they chose it. I think they probably were put in a situation where it became their way. And now they've developed, this is how they're used to living. And so we have to change that. But that comes through trust. That comes through building trust, you know, which is what the Unsheltered Friends are doing. And they've helped a lot because they got involved with the Homeless Roundtable. They wanted to do something. They dove in. They're out there, you know, almost every day, and they built relationships. And because of those relationships, they have been able to help us get some people off the street who would have not otherwise gone because there was no trust between them and us. So let me say thank you to those two, because I know what great work they're doing.
So someone asked, where's the new housing going to go? Has that site been finalized?
So I believe that the one that they actually put in for is the piece of property over near on Labatt and Martin Avenue, right over there. It actually is right next to the new fire station, Fire Station 3. And, you know, I actually saw the presentation that was done to council when council was their staff was bringing it up. And, you know, I know a lot of people are concerned because, you know, it sounds like we're just creating a place for a homeless encampment, and that's not it at all. These are these places. I think the one in Mountain View is kind of the one that we were looking at. There's some others. San Jose has a couple, but they're very well run. They're individual units. They're little houses. They're kind of houses, and there's services on site. So I know nobody wants it, as they say, you know, not in my backyard, but it's got to go somewhere, right? You can't keep pushing the problem outside the boundaries. But this is something that I truly believe when it's done, and people see it, they'll have a better understanding that we weren't just getting a piece of property to put a bunch of tents on. We're doing it right, and it'll probably, you know, it'll. If you didn't know it, you probably wouldn't know it was a step housing project. So that's really what it is. It's a housing to get people off the street and into, get them stabilized, get them ready to take the next step to more permanent housing, right? So it's more of a temporary stationary housing to get people just back on their feet in a good, you know, on meds, whatever they got to do, so we can take and stabilize them and get them to the next level of housing. It's a step program, there's no doubt.
So someone kind of made a comment about being like Roanoke Park citizens. Is there anything with homelessness? I know California has a large population compared to the rest of, you know, the US. Is it something that is unique to California, why we have so many? And then is there anything where the person had to have been a resident of a certain jurisdiction in order for that jurisdiction to then be responsible to give them housing? Is there anything like that involved with?
So what I will say is that every year they do a point in time count, and they go to, you know, we do it here in Roanoke Park, they do it in Santa Rosa. And when you talk to these people, when you talk to them, the majority are people who are Roanoke Park residents who lived in this city. We don't get a lot of people who are homeless from, you know, Ukiah, and they decide I'm going to stop in Roanoke Park. They're from the city, a very high percentage, and you know, in California you can live wherever you want. We can't say you can't be homeless here if you're not from here, but you know, California, people love California for the weather, right? And so, you know, if you're going to be homeless, that's and people will tell you it's a good place to be homeless because you can't be homeless in New York that easy. You can't be homeless in North Dakota and, you know, some of the Colorado, because you don't survive very well outside in a tent in those cities. So California is a place where it's the weather helps a lot, right? We don't get a lot of freezing nights. And even when you move down south, I don't know if anybody's been to some of the cities down south and even more of the East Bay. I mean, it looks bad. Roberts Lake looks bad, but I don't think people have seen what bad looks like yet. And I don't want to let it get that way. But, you know, we're not aiding and abetting the homeless. We are following what the courts have sent down and said you have to follow, right? You can't, you have to do this, and you have to start providing housing. So we're not aiding and abetting. We're trying to follow the laws. Anyway, so my email, I'll give you my email, is tmatos@rpcity.org. And if some of the, you know, I'd be more than happy to chat with someone, the gentleman who is writing in about, you know, has a very strong opinion, which you're entitled to, but I'd be more than happy to chat with you one-on-one and answer questions, because believe me, the city has the city attorneys. We have city attorneys that work for us that we run everything by, because we need to make sure, and we're being advised by attorneys who know the law inside and out and understand Martin, and are telling us what it means. We also have the League of Cities who tells us what they're all saying the same thing. We're doing what we can, but again, if you want to talk more, please feel free to reach out to me at tmattos, TMATTOS @rpcity.org, and I'd be more than happy to discuss this with you. So, oh, well, let's see, city council's aiding and abetting. Anyway, I will tell you, I wasn't sure. Now, this is a great chat. I love that the community is challenging the process and you know, has that passion for the community and for what's going on. And like I said, I really do invite you to become part of the Homeless Roundtable. You got ideas out there. Maybe we're missing something, but I'd love to hear from you. So please contact me, Lupe. And again, amazing job. Thank you. Jill, I know you're not feeling great, but thank you for jumping on here, being a trooper. And you probably won't be able to talk tomorrow. You'll have that, but I do appreciate it. And we will see everybody back 2 weeks, so the 16th. 16th. And then we talk about this more, and we can wish everybody I think we're getting close to Thanksgiving by that time. So all right, well, we're going to sign off now, but thank you all for joining. I really appreciate it.
Bye.